Greetings and welcome to another edition of Fill Your Own Void, the podcast. Again, it's Fill Your Own Void, the podcast, where we will be discussing topics that's near and dear to you and yours, as well as topics that's near and dear to me and mine. First, let me introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. My name is Chuck Rose, and I'm the author of Personally Improving Mental Performance, as well as Access to Success. And I'll be your partner on our journey to becoming our own life coaches and navigating our path to enlightenment and increased quality of life. Again, I will be your partner on our journey to becoming our own life coaches and navigating our path to enlightenment and increased quality of life by our own definition. So understand, it's not as just a motivational speaking, enlightenment type of life coaching type of podcast. We'll be covering all the endowments. We'll be covering mind, body, and spirit, as well as other disciplines that we enjoy: sports, fitness, philosophy, self-help, and more importantly, the topics that you send in, the topics of your choice. Because what we want to do is make sure that we're calibrated across all the endowments: parental, marital, financial, physical, emotional, spiritual. We want to calibrate on a 100% because we talked about he who knows others is clever, but he who knows himself is enlightened. And we want to become enlightened. And we'll talk a little bit about those topics that's most important to you. All you got to do is send in those topics to fillyourownvoid@gmail.com. You can follow us on all the major social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and watch us on the YouTube channel. All you got to do is just search us by Fill Your Own Void, or just search Chuck Rose. Today's topic is Attitude Determines Altitude and Getting to 36,000 feet. It's a two-factor, twofold podcast. And today's subject matter expert is Dre Thomas, because his story of survival is incredible. Literally, not figuratively, truly incredible. You have to, you guys are sitting there and you're talking about, oh man, I've been through, I'm currently in a situation, and you're currently sitting in a corner sucking your thumb, talking about woe is me. Well, I want you to bump yourself up against this story and put your life in perspective. We talk about a pair comparison in previous episodes. But his story also helped motivate me to get through my Job experience. And, I talked about the different scenarios of breaking the generational curse. But there's things that we can't control. I talked about controlling the uncontrollables, right? The controllables. But this is the uncontrollable that this young man had to deal with. And he's helped me. So he inspired me. And I actually covered this particular topic in my book, Personally Improving Mental Performance, where I talked about attitude determines altitude and getting to 36,000 feet, both respectively, in those two episodes or chapters. And we talked in a recent previous episode about conducting a self-evaluation. Keep that in mind as you listen to this podcast and hear Dre's story of resilience, determination, and transitioning from calamity to calm, trouble to triumph, and victim to victor. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about and introduce my guest, my subject matter expert of survival, Andre Thomas. Andre is a full-time dad of 3, a full-time husband, a full-time sales rep in Atlanta, Georgia. He's a native of Burlington, New Jersey. His list goes on and on. He earned his bachelor's degree in Florida at Florida Memorial University, HBCU. I went to Virginia State, played basketball there, in business administration. He's really a decorated, accomplished basketball player in FMU history. He'll talk a little bit about that. His 25 through 29 season, he led his team to win the Sun Conference Tournament crown in 06 and 07. And he, just did some amazing things. Ultimately, he said what set him apart was finishing his career with over 1,000 points, 100 assists, 560 rebounds, first all time, 100 steals, 154 blocks, first all time. There's a pattern here. And played 94 games. So this gentleman has an amazing story. He's been in a coma. He was suffering from acute liver failure shortly after all of those achievements. And he's gone through a lot of things. So I want to sit here and I want to take this opportunity to welcome Andre Thomas. He's put together a foundation. Andre, the Second Chance Foundation. Talk to me a little bit about that. Talk to me, Dre. What's going on, big guy?
What's going on, Chuck? How you been? I'm just grateful to be here, to be on your podcast, here to share my story. Just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and I'm just ready to get going. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. I tell you, you've truly motivated me, cuzzo. I know today, you try to make an impact on every life that crosses the journey, especially with, Andre Chance Foundation. I mean, I opened this up, and one of the things that I posted when I was trying to let everybody know that this is a story. When you talk about, like I said, victim to victor, I mean, this is crazy, B. So before we get into that, and I'm going to be taking, again, copious notes, little cuz, as you talk about it, what sparked your interest in sport? Before we get into, well, let's talk about the calm first. So what sparked your interest in sports?
Growing up, I would say my dad introduced me to basketball. I was just growing up around basketball my whole life, football my whole life. The one person who I attributed to is my older brother Kyle, who I looked up to and idolized, being a 6'6" point guard coming out of Burlington City, New Jersey, where we're from, going to the University of Colorado. I envisioned myself as being that. I can remember Tubby Smith coming to the house. I can remember Rick Pitino coming to the house. I also can remember the coach from Oregon coming to the house as well at that moment in time, and the coach from Colorado. So I just envisioned, and he was on one of the top AAU teams in New Jersey, and I wanted to be that. So Kyle was is like my big hero. He's a father figure to me, and he was the one that showed me the way and instilled me with the love for basketball. So
wow, that's crazy, man. Because I know Kyle, and again, I know your other very talented siblings as well as your parents, man. And I wonder, does he know the impact? I mean, when you talk, and here on this podcast, we talk about vision, thoughts becoming things, and affirmations, and all of these things. So I wanted to, kind of figure out how you got there. I mean, and we as mammals that we are, but I mean, your family's tall anyway. But I mean, you're just like 6'7", no?
Yes, I'm 6'7". Yes.
Wow. And Kyle was what? 6'6"?
Kyle 6'6".
So see what you did? You was like, yo, I envision myself being like my big bro, but I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him by an inch, and you did just that. So no, absolutely. And then you got another brother. He's also a baller. Talk to me about him.
My brother Reggie, he actually did football. He's actually 6'5". So he did very well at football at Burlington City. He went to West Virginia State for a year, but he decided against football, and he loved basketball, so he joined me down at the great HBCU of Florida Memorial University down in Miami. And we actually won the title together there, playing basketball together, because he just wanted to play with his younger brother, and we just decided to give it a go, and look what happened.
Yo, that's crazy, man, because I know, we talked earlier before, the podcast, and you sent me some pics, and I saw you cutting down the net. So that when you're cutting down the net, that was actually the photo of that particular?
Yes. Yes, it was. That was the photo where we won the championship coming down the net. We actually won our conference tournament, and then we went on to the Division II national tournament, and we got to the Sweet 16. The school has never done that before, so it was grateful to come from New Jersey, that me and my brother put that legacy there, and we're just grateful for that opportunity.
Absolutely, man. When you talk about the legacy of over 1,000 points, 100 assists, over 500 rebounds, first all time, and your position maybe was what, swing, 3 or 4, maybe center, I don't know, but 154 blocks, first all time. I mean, crazy, man. But, what folks don't know, we're talking about the calm right now. We're going to get into the calamity. And, when we talk about the calamity, we talk about you're being a young 23-year-old gentleman, and, you're like, oh, man, wow, I'm chilling, and then we'll get back into that further. But I mean, like I want to keep people's whistle wet. But like I said, I understand your dad. And then here's the thing: I understand your dad was your coach. I know Biggie. And I know Uncle Buddy. And we'll get into that, and the listeners will know how. And I know your lovely mother. She's truly an angel here on earth. As well as, like I said, and matter of fact, she and we share the same birthday, August 13th. Leo's in the house, as well as your talented siblings. Tell me about them during the healing process of your going through your situation.
Oh man, they're God sent. I thank God for both of my parents. One thing I always say is that the balance to have both your parents in your life is something that I value a lot, because my mother was definitely the church-going woman in our household. So she always prayed. She always made sure that we were in line that we always kept God first. My father was a disciplinarian. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. These are the things that I'm going to show you how to be a man. And it worked hand to hand through the healing process. So my mom prayed for me for my healing, and my pop said, you're a fighter, you're going to get through this because we've been through this. And he also prayed with us as well. But those are those two strong attributes that they hold. My mom was the prayer. She always reached to God first. My dad reached to God as well, but he always made sure, son, we're going to get through this, and these are the steps how we're going to get through this.
Absolutely. Ooh, that's cold, because God, when he talks about the great I am that's in you is greater than he that's in the world, Reg was coming from that aspect. And then mom was coming, and, from that desire and that prayer, that fervent petition for absolute resort, which you guys achieved, because you could have literally easily had given up. And had you did that, the result would have been very, very different. Now we've got the audience and the listeners whistle wet. So now we're going to talk about what we're talking about. Because, however, after those, 1,000 plus points, 100 plus assists, and 500 plus rebounds on January 2010, one day, this young brother fainted in his bathroom, and he woke up a week later. Get me now, a week later in the ICU at Our Lady of Lourdes Medical Center in Camden, New Jersey. And he had been in a coma and was suffering from acute liver failure. Shortly after, he received a liver transplant, but there was more to come. After a successful liver transplant, Dre's kidneys began to fail, and he was immediately put on a dialysis, and Dre had to recover, and the recovery became more difficult, and not to mention uncertain. What is going through your mind at that point, Dre?
First thing, I didn't understand how I got there. I don't understand. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. I tried to stay healthy as possible. So when this happened, the first thing is I just remember having an upset stomach. So I was a fighter. So I just felt as though like, oh, I got a little cold. I'm going to get over this. This is not that bad. Upset stomach, fine. I had the runs a little bit. I said, I'll get over this. Then one day I just remember fainting in the bathroom. And I went to my G-Mom and G-Dad's house, who and my Aunt Keisha actually took me to the Willenboro Hospital because she's seen in my eyes were yellow. So I was like, okay. So then once they took me there, all I remember is going to sleep. That's all I remember. I woke up, my mom and dad told me that they called and told them that they had to come home. They were in Miami at the time. And they rode with me in the ambulance to get me to Our Lady of Lourdes down in Camden. Now, I don't even remember that ride because I was out of it. I was in a coma at that time, and they had to make sure they had to do an emergency liver transplant. So when I woke up, all I remember is seeing all these wires hooked up to me, not knowing why, not knowing how did this came about, because 2 weeks prior to that, I was in a basketball league and I'm jumping over the rim. I actually went for a tryout to get overseas, and I actually made it, and I was on my way to Brazil. So that had to be cut short because of my health issues. Once I got with all the wires and waking up, I just got right to it to figuring out how can I better myself in this situation. Now, I will tell you, there were moments that I questioned God because I didn't understand why this happened to me for no rhyme or reason. I used to sit there in the bed and used to think, dang, God, how'd you do this to me? And there's people out there doing stuff to their body and they're living okay. And I'm the one that's working out. I'm the one that's not smoking. I'm the one that's not drinking. I'm the one that's trying to do right so I can keep my body healthy because we only have one. And my liver fails. And now you're telling me that I have to be on dialysis not knowingly for 6 years until I got the kidney transplant. So, yeah, there were dark times for me, like, God, how am I going to get through this? I may not get through this, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So I fought my way through and keeping God first from, as my mom, she's the prayer, my dad is the fighter, that we're going to get through this.
That's cool. And I opened up the podcast and I talked about, those folks that's literally, sitting in the corner talking about woe is me and, oh my God, this and that. And, these are folks with good job, but they may not have gotten a raise or